I consider the Howl County Naval Shipyard to be one of the 7 wonders of Foxhole. You might remember one of the last wonders of Foxhole in this series was the Winter Legion Logistics Container Yard. I will leave a link to that video in the description below. But for today, we are going to talk about the Howl County Naval Shipyard and talk about what makes this production line unique and truly something special within the Foxhole community. As a logistics player in Foxhole, I love groups that get together to focus on one line of production and that specialize in being the best in that field of production, especially when their goal is to give what they produce to the public. The Navy update for Foxhole was released on October 26, 2023 during War 108. So it hasn't even been a full year since the large-scale Navy ships were implemented into the game. The update introduced a new material that was needed to build these ships called rare metals, and a new building for constructing these ships was introduced, and it's called a dry dock. Since the new update, new ships have been added and tweaks to the Navy combat are continuing to be improved upon. The Howl County Naval Shipyard, or HCNS regiment, over the last several wars has been slowly growing in members and have been getting closer to perfecting their production line to make these Navy ships available to all. Forming this group was no walk in the park. Let's go back to the beginning and talk about how HCNS came together and what HCNS looks like today. It takes a special kind of dedication in Foxhole if you want to run a shipyard and build large-scale Navy ships for the front lines. Within the culture of Foxhole, finding people who enjoy working at a facility can be hard. Facility work requires patience and a strong work ethic. The founding members of HCNS answered that call. They were a few random individual players who loved the grind and found satisfaction in making things happen for other people within the game. They could have used that energy or motivation to do public logi, or artillery, or make tanks for other players. But in the end, they wanted a challenge. They had decided they wanted to make boats. The HCNS was formally founded during the Update War of 108. The founding individuals were able to coordinate with other regiments and started off as a small coalition of 4 smaller regiments, which included DSM, RIP, SNOW, and PEAK. They worked together to understand the new ships, the materials, and the production of these ships. Initially, this collaboration was driven by the realization that combining resources allowed them to construct more vessels than any single group could manage alone. By the time War 108 had concluded, they had successfully produced 5 submarines. During the break period between War 108 and War 109, DSM and RIP merged to form the Howl County Naval Shipyard. This new group was led by Hostile Medic from DSM and Lord Deathhand and Kilroy from RIP. As War 109 unfolded, these 3 leaders established a naval yard in Little Lamb, where HCNS truly began to take shape. Starting with just 3 pads and 1 dry dock for production, they gradually increased their production over time and were able to launch 10 ships by the end of War 109. Through their newfound regiment, they had doubled their production rate from the previous war, but they weren't done yet. The pattern of growth continued into War 110, with HCNS once again setting up operations in Little Lamb. They expanded their team, attracted new members, and doubled their output once again, now producing around 20 ships by the war's conclusion. HCNS's reputation grew as they established public naval shipyards during War 112, 113, and now currently War 115, continually refining their process and expanding their community. HCNS started as a grassroots organization and has been driven to set the standard in mass naval production. At the current time during War 115, HCNS has become a significant force, having produced nearly 70 ships with more on the way. During this war, they introduced a new service which offered free repairs and ammunition. For this new service, they have completed 160 orders so far. HCNS remains committed to strengthening the Warden faction through their public naval facilities. They continue to find better ways to streamline the process to ensure swift shipbuilding. While it may be presumptuous or a bit of vanity, there is a solid case to be made in support of their claim as the best singular naval production regiment in the Warden faction. HCNS was kind enough to offer me a tour of their production. During this tour, we cover the resource gathering phase, the input and output of these resources, the production, and finally sending the ships out to sea.
With naval production, there is a massive amount of logic that goes into even the simplest of tasks. Probably the most critical resource ends up being scrap, not necessarily for its basic production value, but because of what comes with it. When Tier 2 techs, it starts dropping the rare metals, which are the key component to building ships. Rare metals are converted into alloys alloys are then put into production pads and infrastructure. So for us, gathering materials is a lot like anything else in the game. It's pretty grindy. You're sourcing a lot of materials through as many avenues as you can, from harvesters to mines to deals with the regiment next door, trying to get somebody with a petrol node to pipe you in, kind of whatever. So for us, really the gathering process is the same as everybody else, but there tends to be a heavier emphasis on the volume. It's not really an extra step or anything. It's just you have to you have to constantly feed the facility, and it never ends. The largest part of having to constantly feed the facility is simply this part of it, the gathering of the materials. It's a huge bottleneck for us. Our regiment is anywhere from 8 to 12 members, depending on who's around. We're an at-will regiment, so we don't require anybody to be on for any particular war or have much of a formal commitment. It's all, people volunteering their time and really kind of committing to the game because they enjoy it. But for us, we're a very small group of people that are very much dedicated to this process. So when it comes to gathering materials, that's why I say it's a never-ending need. We always have to ask people for favors. We're asking, hey, can you bring an extra load of coal or extra load of coke? Can you, bring a petrol train to us? Or some regiments have been very kind and have sort of found us in this, I guess, this endeavor, and they're willing to commit materials, both tied into, work scores, bonuses for them because they're shipping out materials, but also just good faith because they're good customers. So it's kind of been one of those things where if we can't get raw materials, we're benefiting from something like process construction materials, or somebody sending us some spare alloys for infrastructure. For us, that is the bottleneck. It's getting everything in and getting it to where it needs to go so that we can run the facility and kind of keep pace with whatever production that we're up against at the time. So the next part of our process is bringing everything into the facility. This really is the sort of never-ending part of the facility. Really, it's everything comes into an RTS or a liquid transfer station. It goes in, it comes right back out. It's dropping everything off and setting it up so that our facility moves very efficiently. It's taken a lot of practice and a few tries to make this work as well as it does now for us, because we don't really move. We're a known entity, and this is kind of the best spot that we found for doing what we do. The way our facility works is that everything comes in on the right-hand side and then moves to the left. We have train loops that help build that in, both large and small gauge. Our liquid transfer stations are all on the right-hand side, and they pipe everything to both power and the requisite facility buildings. The day-to-day sort of task that everybody goes through is bringing in resources, getting resources into the place that they need to be, and then taking those and moving them through the facility as far as whatever production needs to happen. Specifically for us, the biggest part of our production is getting to the materials to actually build ships. So these are usually second or third step refinement processes. We very seldom use tier 1 refined materials outside of some AMAT 1s, AMAT 2s, and a few construction materials. Really, the bulk of our processing is tier 2 into tier 3. As we move through our production process, we get through our tier 2, tier 3 materials, and we actually end up processing all of those to load them into these pads. So our infrastructure is the most critical part of what we do. Specifically, we have the naval assembly pads as well as the dry docks. Those two things are what allow you to produce ships. The goal is to publicly source as many alloys as we can to build infrastructure to support everybody else. The way we see it, every dry dock that we aren't building, if it's not, being coordinated with somebody else, it's a waste of alloys. A dry dock is 35 alloys. That's almost an entire submarine. It's half of a frigate. Each pad is 10 alloys. Those materials end up being ships that go to fighting the war and getting more boats in the water faster. So with our infrastructure and with our production, we strive to have as much as possible so that we can facilitate as many orders as quickly as possible. All of our basic materials, from scrap, coal, coke, petrol, it all comes in, gets cooked, built into the actual parts and pieces of the ships on these pads, and then pushed out of the facility as quickly as possible. We have, on average, a 2.5 large ship per day production ratio that can fluctuate up and down depending on how many ships we have in the queue, how much materials we have, where we're at in infrastructure. We're definitely a very slow to start facility, only because the rare metal grind, once they drop, is super hard. It's trying to make more people aware that this is a resource for them, and that if they support us at the beginning, it pays off dividends much quicker down the road versus everybody else kind of hoarding metals and sitting on them for a long time until they can finally build their own parts and then put up a dry dock or whatever. Ideally, in a perfect world, we'd love to have the ability to slap down a dry dock and 4 pads as soon as the tech drops, and then start making boats for people. We preload our entire facility so that as soon as tier 2 drops, we have everything built and we are good to go. With all of that, we kind of have to keep pushing through our day-to-day grind to keep up with this, but realistically, everything gets turned into a whole segment, a shell plating. These turbines back here, these require AMAT 5, so super material intensive. We get some support from other people for these, but all in all, it all kind of culminates here. This is where the buck kind of stops. Every part is produced here, and then it goes into a ship. Somebody has ground for those alloys, they've ground for the PCE mats, they've scrooped the coal, the coke. All of that culminates here, and then it's put out as a final product into a ship in the dry dock that somebody gets to show off and enjoy and go fight the fight that they want to fight. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where we are an equal party producer, I guess you could call it. We're a public resource and a public service. So as long as the public helps us, we help everybody else. So we talked about all the processes of our production, where everything kind of ends up, where the infrastructure is. This is what it's all about. This is building something that is a huge, not only like collaborative effort between us and our customers, but also all the players in the game. A lot of people put time and effort into getting the materials, getting these things built, getting them outfitted and equipped to go fight, and then just conducting the operations. These are massive vehicles that take a lot of coordination, a lot of skill, and a lot of effort. This is kind of the payoff for us, really. We do this because we enjoy it. Like, I don't think that there's a group of people that could take on naval production at scale like we have and not at least enjoy that. We complain and we kind of groan and moan every now and then about the real sort of task in front of us. But the payoff is seeing everybody get to take their boats out, being super happy, enjoying operations, knowing that they can go out, kick some butt with a boat. Maybe they lose it, but all they have to do is get the rare metals and we take care of everything else. Like, they can take care of the extra grindy part of the game, but they can come back to us. We'll build them another boat. They can go back out and do it again. They can go fight. They can take their knocks. They can come back. They can get repaired, rearmed, turn around and go do it again. Super happy to support everybody. We're pretty much Switzerland. We say, hey, if you put the time into grind, then we're not going to tell you can't have a boat. It doesn't matter. You can be a warrant officer, an O cadet that has been grinding for the last 3 weeks, and you happen to have all the medals, and you're like, hey, I want a frigate. Like, sure, here you go. What we may advise you to go talk to some people about how to run it. We may take you out and show you a few things here and there. We're not going to let you just fly out into the wind and go where you go. We try to educate people. We make sure that we give them a pre-fit. So we give them of our own volition, no extra cost to them. We give them like starting ammunition, equipment, shells, so that when they leave us, they're not completely naked. They're not just sailing the open water to get somewhere and to get nailed by a partisan just because they didn't have a gas mask. So we make sure that everybody has at least the bare minimum to get out the gate. It's kind of turned into a labor of love. We get a little particular about paperwork, but that's just because we like a little bit of clout at the end of the war to say, hey, we did this. I don't know. We have a very special group of people. Hostile Medic, Kilroy, and I started this as 3 lonesome, crazy, sleep-deprived individuals trying to co-opting a ship was even feasible as a small group. And we are still small, but we have very, very dedicated, outstanding people and some logi freaks mixed in. And it's just, we have a lot of pride. We have a lot of ownership in what we do. And I don't think there's a single person in HCNS that would ever doubt that we do the absolute best we can for anybody and everybody, just the people to show up and get the job done.
As you can see, this shipyard is a critical node in the Warden Navy production network. HCNS ensures a smooth flow of ships to clans or individuals to send out into the water. Players simply bring their rare metals to HCNS and they will do the rest. The cost of ships is outlined on this chart. The queue system for these ships gives no preference if you are a large clan, small clan, or an individual player. The group or player that submits the rare metals to HCNS first will receive their ship first. HCNS will even hold the rare materials for you and keep them safe within their base. Not only do you get a ship built for you, but HCNS also stocks the ships with needed materials and ammunition so that you are ready to set sail once it's complete. If you are new to Navy combat, they will even schedule a time with you or your clan to teach you how to operate these ships. As mentioned before, if you take your ship out into battle and it manages to survive, you can simply bring the ship back to the shipyard for repairs and have it rearmed. Something to note is that when the front line comes to Howl County, the production of ships is halted. The resources used for these ships is then shifted to support frontline war efforts. HCNS becomes a defensive regiment and they join the fight. Here's a spreadsheet that covers everything they've produced in War 115 so far. And here's what some clients of HCNS had to say about working with them. 11 out of 10, friendly service and decently fast production time. Who else but HCNS? End quote. Very fast, convenient, and reliable service. We live in different time zones, so it's sometimes inconvenient. I've made a purchase several times now and I'm still satisfied. They even named a dry dock after me. 100 out of 10. Big heart. End quote. 9.69 out of 10. HCNS is an amazing group of guys to hang around with in Howl County, and they are insanely productive as a group altogether. They've been providing loads of people with the ability to have a good time with big ships, without having to pay for the infrastructure or facility costs, which is an admirable goal. End quote. 10 out of 10. Process is easy to do. Will 100% be continuing to do business within the future. End quote. 10 out of 10. They took my mats and a moment later began cooking the pieces to build the battleship. As fast of a turnaround as one can get. I was not expecting in the slightest a starter kit for the BS when it finished either. Best service one could ask for. Even kidnapped one of their dock workers to be my engine man to get me to base and seaport. Wonderful. End quote. Received my submarine in pristine condition. Surely will buy again someday. 11 out of 10. Great service and great staff. Plus 1 point for the tour. End quote. It should be mentioned as well that HCNS is not just a ship facility production regiment. They like to get out into the battlefield and have fun like the rest of us.
Outside of being a facility regi, well, that is our main goal and purpose. We talked about earlier that we're kind of an at-will regi. We enjoy getting out of the facility. We kind of goof around and make running jokes that this is what happens whenever you let the facility guys off the leash.
Or don't run over our own guys.
Holy shit.
All right.
Burn it! Burn it all!
Oh shit!
That's so cool!
Hey, get that push gun, get that push gun, get that push gun.
We're going for the push gun! Go for the push gun! Over the top! Over the top! Oh god, I got hit with a rocket.
God, like, thanks for the flamethrower.
I mean to watch.
But we like to run operations. We shoot to run them at least once a week, usually on the weekends. Sometimes we'll do a pickup operation middle of the week, try and jump in with other regiments that we hang out with. We've done SPGs this war. We did some shenanigans with flamethrowers in the back of a harvester. We run some silver hands. We have some BTs that we're going to take out. A battleship is probably on the list as well. So really we try to be a fairly balanced regiment just because we know that it takes a lot of work. And while technically running a facility is playing the game, we want to make sure we're playing the game in as many ways as possible. So we try to get out of the facility and go help on the front. And, when the front comes to us, we step up. We try to wrap up what we're doing with boats and help out where we can, between logi, combat, you name it. We want to be as much of a resource to the faction as we possibly can.
In conclusion, like the container yard, I love seeing massive logistics operations like this shipyard around Foxhole. What I like about this shipyard is that it's public and can be used by anyone. They don't cater to large regiments. It's a first come, first served production line. So even if you're a small or medium sized group and if you want to get your feet wet with some Navy ships, you can order a ship from this group anytime. This shipyard is a bustling hub of activity where complex Navy logistics is carried out with precision and efficiency. and again why I consider it one of the 7 wonders of Foxhole. Huge shout out to the Howl County Navy Shipyard members for helping me make this video. If you are looking for a mature, fun Navy clan to join, then I would highly recommend checking them out. I will leave a link to their Discord in the description below. If you have a cool system like this in game that you or your regiment have been doing for a long time, DM me on Discord. I would love to know more about it and possibly make a similar video about it and highlight it. What would you consider one of the 7 wonders of Foxhole? Let me know in the comments, and please don't say fuel silos. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support. Make sure to subscribe for more Foxhole content. Come see the world with the Howl County Navy Shipyard. Cheers.